Hello there you guys, welcome to one of my videos. Going to be giving you an update on some transfer news. So Manchester United are linked with Erling Haaland from Borussia Dortmund. We are also linked with Eduardo Camavinga from Rennes. Now it does mention that Real Madrid are planning to put bids in for Erling Haaland and Eduardo Camavinga in January. It says Real Madrid are willing to pay £67 million for Haaland, plus they're willing to offer Luka Jovic on loan. And I think Rennes want around £53 million for Camavinga. He's got around 18 months left on his current contract. Now, Real Madrid are hoping Martin Odegaard can help them sign Erling Haaland. Now, I'd like Erling Haaland to come to Manchester United. It was a shame that we missed out on him in December last year, because I said, he would have been an Ole Gunnar Solskjaer type signing. Solskjaer obviously knows the player well, because Solskjaer was the one that gave me his debut at Molde at just the age of 16. And back in December, Solskjaer and Ed Woodward went to Norway to meet up with Erling Haaland. But yeah, Haaland joined Borussia Dortmund in January. Dortmund only paid £17 million for him. He has got a contract with Dortmund until 2024. He does have a £68 million release clause in his contract. It becomes active in the summer of 2022. Haaland is only at the age of 20. Isn't he? But he's done very, very well for Borussia Dortmund, I'll give him that. So, would you take Camavinga and Haaland at Manchester United? We're actually seeing Camavinga as a replacement for Paul Pogba. Now, I want to delve into some news on Cristiano Ronaldo. So, who will Cristiano Ronaldo's next club be when he leaves Juventus? Now, Ronaldo could be coming back to Manchester United. Recently, Fox Sports journalist Christian Martin said that Man United have been in talks over the possibility of bringing Cristiano Ronaldo back to the club. It also mentioned yesterday that we made a formal offer to Cristiano Ronaldo's agent, Jorge Mendes, and Juventus are determined to sell him if they do not win the Champions League. It also mentions that PSG have been interested in him. There was talks of a swap deal involving Ronaldo and Neymar. It also mentioned that Wolves have been linked with him, and Troy Deeney has come out and said he would be a Wolves kind of player. Now, despite the fact that Ronaldo's 35, I'd still take him back at Manchester United because he is regarded as one of the best players in the world. Ronaldo did endure 6 years with us. He was with us from 2003 to 2009. During his time with the club, he won 3 Premier League titles. He won the Champions League, he won the FA Cup, and he won the FIFA Club World Cup. He scored 118 goals in 292 games in all competitions. At the time we got him, We paid just £12 million for him from Sporting Lisbon. That's where he began his footballing career, Lisbon. 2009, we sold him to Real Madrid for £80 million. So we gained like a £68 million profit. And he enjoyed, was it 9 or 10 years with Real Madrid? Then obviously Juventus bought him from Real Madrid for around £100 million. And at Juventus, he scored 71 goals in 94 games in all competitions. Next summer, he'll only have 1 year left on his contract with Juventus. Ronaldo is on 540 grand a week at Juventus. That equates to around £28 million a year. And Ronaldo has won 5 Ballon d'Ors. In his playing career so far, he's won around 30 trophies. So yeah, I'm not going to disregard him coming back because he's a good chance that he could come back. I think Ronaldo's open to coming back to Manchester United. So there you go. Now, obviously, there's been other players on our agenda, who we could go in for next year. Not so long ago, there was talk saying that we're going to go back in for Ousmane Dembele in January. There was reports saying that he could be available for £45 million. It says, we could get him on loan with the obligation to buy. Barcelona would prefer straight purchase. Dayot Upamecano, he's another player that's been on our agenda. He's available for £38 million, I think, next year, because that's when his release clause does become active. Jadon Sancho could go back in for him next year. It says we've also revived our interest in Jack Grealish. So, yeah. But I think Manchester United need around 4 or 5 signings, to win the Premier League title. I still think we do need a centre-half, and we also need a right winner. Now, we're not obviously only going to focus on the incomings next year. We're also going to focus on the outgoings, because there's still deadwood at the football club. I think next year we'll be looking to get rid of Jesse Lingard, looking to get rid of Marcus Rojo, Phil Jones. Romero will leave if Dean Henderson is to remain at the club and we don't put Dean Henderson out on loan. But if Dean Henderson goes out on loan, then I think Romero will stay as a backup. We could possibly sell Matic next year because he's lost his place in the team. We could possibly sell Juan Mata, Paul Pogba. I think a lot of United fans are expecting him to leave next year. Daniel James, I think he's going to leave because he's out of form. Doesn't really play a lot now, does he? Brandon Williams, he could be loaned out because obviously Brandon Williams is now our third choice left back at the club. Modian Igalo, I think he'll leave the football club in January when his loan expires. Now, you saw my recent video that I did earlier on today. Ed Woodward insists Manchester United remain absolutely committed to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer despite our poor start to the season. We've registered only 10 points from our opening 7 games in the league, and reflects on that we are sitting 14th in the Premier League. Don't forget we have not yet won at Old Trafford in the Premier League this season, and it is our worst start at Old Trafford for around 50 years. Now, don't forget, we have announced a 20% fall in our first quarter revenue due to losses incurred from ticket sales, because obviously fans cannot attend games. But I've said to you time and time again, haven't I, that I don't think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has been backed enough as Manchester United manager, because we missed out on all of his priority targets. I don't think any of our managers have been backed enough since the Sir Alex Ferguson era. Moyes wasn't backed enough, Van Gaal wasn't backed enough, Mourinho wasn't backed enough, and, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has not been backed enough. And Ole revealed a few times during the summer transfer window that he was very infuriated with the board. Wasn't he? Now, Ole is still under pressure at Manchester United. Some pressure would have eased off him, reflecting on that win against Everton recently. We did beat Everton by 3-1. Going into that game against Everton, though, Ole was under a lot of serious pressure. If we'd have not beaten Everton, then I think he would have been sacked as Manchester United manager. Now, if we can win our next 5 or 6 games after the international break, more and more pressure will ease off Ole. I think with Ole being a club legend, our board have softened our stance on him. Because I think if this had been any other manager at Manchester United, they would have been sacked by now. Now, obviously, we have got West Brom after the international break. That's a game Manchester United should be winning. West Brom are a very, very poor outfit. They haven't won a game yet in the Premier League this season, and they're currently sitting 18th. So they are in the relegation zone. The last time we played West Brom at Old Trafford, we lost to them by 1-0, and that was a couple of years ago. Also lost to them under the David Moyes era at Old Trafford by 2-1. We also had that 5-5 game with them in Alex Ferguson's final game. But yeah, we should be definitely winning that one. After West Brom, it is Istanbul Başakşehir. That's going to be our 4th game in the Champions League group stage. Then I think it is Southampton, and Southampton will be a pretty tough game. But it's been ups and downs, hasn't it, with Man United this season? We've had some good results and we've also had bad results. We had good results in the Champions League group stage against PSG because we beat them 2-1. And we had a good result against Leipzig because we beat them 5-0. Reece had a good result against Everton, beat them 3-1. The bad results, though, were Palace, lost to them 3-1 on the opening day of the Premier League season. Tottenham 6-1, that was an embarrassing defeat. First time we'd lost at Old Trafford 6-1 in the league since City beat us in 2011. Obviously lost to Arsenal the other week 1-0. That was our first defeat at Old Trafford to Arsenal in the Premier League since 2006, so that's around 14 years ago now. We obviously lost to Istanbul Başakşehir by 2-1, and that was definitely an embarrassing defeat. Istanbul Başakşehir only got formed in 1990, and that was obviously their first ever win in the Champions League. I think now Mauricio Pochettino to Manchester United is over. Because I said, Solskjaer's now set to stay at the club, reflects on what Woodward's recently said. Mauricio Pochettino has been the favourite to take over at Manchester United, hasn't he? Don't forget, Pochettino was the favourite to take over after Jose Mourinho got sacked. Now, he recently said that he's watching Chelsea, Man United and Man City. I don't think he's sure where his next club will be. Now, David Ornstein from The Athletic said that, he's not close to taking a job, but he is ready. Pochettino made that clear on Monday Night Football the other week, because he said he's missing football and he's ready for a return to management. Now, don't forget Rio Ferdinand recently said that Man United have had no conversations with Pochettino over replacing Solskjaer. And Ferdinand said he was frustrated with the disrespect that's been shown to Ole. But the Manchester Evening News said the other week that we'd approached Mauricio Pochettino over becoming the club's new manager. Pochettino has been managerless now for like a year because he was sacked from Tottenham last year. It also mentions that we've been looking at Massimiliano Allegri as an alternative to Solskjaer. Massimiliano Allegri is a former Juventus manager. It also mentions that we've been looking at Julian Nagelsmann. He's the RB Leipzig manager. He's regarded as one of the best young managers in the world. That's another alternative. But would it really solve a lot sacking Solskjaer? Probably not, because like I've said time and time again, not all of the blame stems from Solskjaer, does it? Like I said, we've been demanding the board out for several years. Still certain players at Man United that have obviously been underperforming. Ollie's into his second full season now as Manchester United manager. And I said, this season he's got to exceed his expectations if he is to remain Man United manager. If we could finish in, the top 4 this season and win a trophy, I think that would represent a good season for Man United, and then that would give us something to build on. Despite our inconsistency, I still think there's a good chance we can win a trophy this season. We won't win the Premier League because we're not good enough to win that yet. We haven't won the Premier League for 8 years now. And we're at least a few years off from winning it, like I've said. We won't win the Champions League, I don't think. But I think there's a good chance we could maybe win the Carabao Cup because we're into the quarterfinals of that. And, we could possibly win the FA Cup, couldn't we? But we've not yet won out in terms of silverware under Ollie. And we haven't won a trophy for over 3 years now. Ollie's been Manchester United manager for almost 2 years. He's got a contract with the football club until 2022. Now, reflecting on how long he's been at Man United, he's gained managerial experience, he's learnt quite a lot. But he just hasn't got that proven pedigree, Ollie. That's my element of concern. I don't think he's good enough as a manager, no, but as a player, my perception were totally contrast to him now being a manager, because as a player he was exceptional. He endured 11 years as a player for Manchester United and he flourished under Alex Ferguson's guidance. His most iconic moment as a player was 1999 when he scored the late winner in the Champions League final to obviously win the club the treble, and the treble is the club's greatest achievement, isn't it? Definitely in a lot of games, Solskjaer's team selections have been questionable. But on the other hand, Ollie showed a lot of tactical flexibility in a lot of the big games, hasn't he? With our record against the top 6 sides has been good since he got appointed, and especially last season. Last season, Ollie beat Pep Guardiola 3 times. He beat Frank Lampard 3 times. He also beat Jose Mourinho once. This season he's beaten Julian Nagelsmann, he's beaten Thomas Tuchel, Solskjaer's beaten PSG twice as Manchester United manager. Ollie has endured 4 transfer windows at the football club. And he spent over £200 million. I credit him for what he did last season. Last season got us qualification for the Champions League, also got us 3rd, and he guided us to 3 semi-finals. And last season was his first full season at the club. Don't forget, the first part of last season, we endured our worst start ever to a Premier League season, didn't we? And at that point, Ollie was close to getting sacked by the football club. And I said to you recently that Ollie's, in this exact same position as what he was in at the first part of last season. I've also seen a lot of players depart the club since he got recommended in. I also like the way that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has promoted the youth. But nothing's changed at Manchester United in the last 7 years or so. We have been playing catch-up, obviously. We've had different managers with different philosophies. We spent close to the £1 billion range on players. We've recruited over 30 odd players in since the Ferguson era, haven't we? Also got players on big contracts at the club. I think we've made a lot of mistakes in the last 7 years or so, and that's one of the main explanations why we have been so inconsistent. But like I said, we haven't dominated English football since the Sir Alex Ferguson era. The vast majority of the success came under Ferguson, because since he's left, we've been inconsistent. Before Ferguson was inconsistent. We've only won 4 trophies in the last 7 years or so, and that was the FA Cup under Van Gaal, the Europa League, the League Cup, and the Community Shield under Jose Mourinho. Now, we paid £89 million for Paul Pogba. He's the most expensive sign at the club at the moment. We paid £80 million for Harry Maguire. He's the most expensive centre-half in the world, and he's the second most expensive sign at the club. We paid, £75 million for Lukaku back in 2017. We paid £60 million for Di Maria under Louis van Gaal era. We paid £52 million for Fred. We paid £50 million for Fran Wan-Bissaka, £40 million for Nemanja Matic, £47 million for Bruno Fernandes and all of that. So we have definitely overpaid for players in recent years, haven't we? That's one thing I can confirm with you. Ole Solskjaer, like I've said time and time again, he's inheriting a squad that's worth £700 million or something like that. Because Solskjaer's inheriting a lot of players here from the Jose Mourinho era. Still a few players here from the Van Gaal era, but not many. There's still one player from the Moyes era, and there's only a couple of players here from the Sir Alex Ferguson era. It would be very beneficial if Manchester United could get a director of football in, because that's one of the structural changes that we need at the club. If we could get a director of football in, then maybe Ole Gunnar Solskjaer would get the backing he needs, And even if another manager was to come in and Solskjaer was to be sacked, it's more than likely they'd demand a director of football in as well. But if another manager was to come in anyway, they'd have lots to do, because they'd be inheriting players from other managerial areas, and obviously, they'd want to make their own signings and that and get rid of quite a few players. Would another manager be able to take this squad forward? And that is the question. Because, these some players at Man United that are good, and, there's some players that have really, really impressed me recently, I've got to be honest. Marcus Rashford, he's really, really impressed me this season. Rashford got an assist in the game against Everton. He should have scored against Everton. He scored a hat-trick against RB Leipzig. Became the second Man United player as a substitute to score a hat-trick. He scored late on in Paris, second time he's done that. And he scored a few goals in the league this season. Rashford recently turned 23 years of age. Rashford's been part of the club for several years. I prefer Rashford out wide though than playing centrally. Rashford has got a problem with his shoulder at the moment. So I think reflects on that, he's a doubt for England's game against Belgium. Rashford had a few injuries. He had an injury last season, didn't he? He had a back injury. He had an injury, didn't he, at the start of this season as well? I think he did, yeah. Now, Bruno Fernandes, he's recently impressed me. Bruno Fernandes got man of the match for the game against Everton because obviously he scored 2 goals and he got an assist. Bruno Fernandes is one of our best players. He was very, very poor in the Istanbul Başakşehir game because he was dispossessed around 34 times. That game against Başakşehir was definitely his worst game in a Manchester United shirt. There's only been a couple of games though where he's looked off the pace. Analysing the vast majority of his games, he's been very, very consistent. Fernandes has endured, 9 months at the club. A lot of his goals have come from the penalty spot. Some from open play as well. Last season he won Premier League Player of the Month twice. He also won St Matt Busby Player of the Year award, Bruno Fernandes. Bruno Fernandes obviously hasn't been happy with Solskjaer recently. He's also been frustrated with Greenwood. Reflects on Greenwood's poor training session. So yeah. Donny van der Beek, I've also been impressed with him in the games he's obviously been involved in. Donny van der Beek's hardly played for Manchester United since he came in. Donny van der Beek has not yet made his full Premier League debut for the club. He did score on his Premier League debut in the opening day defeat to Crystal Palace, so came off the bench. Donny van der Beek has started our last 2 games in the Champions League, hasn't he? In the game against Leipzig, we put him in at number 10. Now, Donny van der Beek recently revealed what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer told him. And he said that Van der Beek needs to remain patient and he'll have to wait for his opportunities. But Van der Beek said he would have loved more chances at Manchester United this season. Recently scored a fantastic goal for Holland in their 1-1 draw with Spain. We paid £40 million for Donny van der Beek, and Donny van der Beek signed a 5-year contract with the football club with an option of a further year, and he currently wears that number 34 shirt. Donny van der Beek can play in like 3 different roles. I think Solskjaer's trying to figure out where his best position would be. Now, Fred, he's really impressed me in the games he's played in this season. Played quite a few games, hasn't he? Fred was very good against Everton. I like the way he kept the ball, he dictated the play, showed some good attacking intent, passed the ball well. Fred didn't play against Besiktas. The other week against Arsenal, he was very poor. Give the ball away far too many times. We paid big money for Fred. We paid £52 million for him from Shakhtar Donetsk. Fred's got a contract with us till 2023. Harry Maguire, he's been very good this season, apart from the beginning of the season, obviously. Maguire has rejuvenated himself, because don't forget, Maguire had early season troubles. He had that incident in Greece and all that. Harry Maguire is obviously our captain. We got him in a deal worth £80 million, most expensive centre-half in the world, like I said earlier on. Yeah, it was good against Everton, was Harry Maguire. And Wan-Bissaka, he's also impressed me as well, bounced back, because he wasn't that good at the start of the season. In the games Bissaka's played well in, we've seen good attacking intent from him. His defensive contributions being good, but there again, his defensive contributions always been very good on Wan-Bissaka's. Luke Shaw, I've been very impressed with him in the last couple of games. He has got 2 assists in his last 2 games. The negativity regarding Luke Shaw is how, with a hamstring injury, it's my element of concern about him. He is too injury prone. I think also too, David De Gea rejuvenated himself, made some very good saves in quite a few games this season. There's been a couple of games where he hasn't really had much to do though. This is David De Gea's 10th season at Manchester United, and I said he will remain our number 1 this season, David De Gea, didn't I? So they are the players that have impressed me recently. There's obviously players that have been underperforming. I think, Daniel James has been out of form. We have had a few issues with Mason Greenwood, getting withdrawn from the England squad yet again. He was withdrawn from the England squad with Phil Foden earlier on in the season, and he says Man United are concerned over his attitude and his lifestyle. But in recent weeks, Ollie's been defending Mason Greenwood, hasn't he? I think Paul Pogba, he's been underperforming, but there again, Paul Pogba's only started 2 of our last 7 games. I think he's leaving Manchester United. He could be going back to Juventus, Paul Pogba. There's still a chance he could go to Real Madrid, but I think Real Madrid prefer Eduardo Camavinga. Paul Pogba has received a lot of criticism recently, by the way. Nemanja Matic, he's underperformed when he's played this season. But like I said, he has lost his place in the team now, Matic. Victor Lindelof, he's had some good games this season, but I still think there's aspects of his game that I've got to improve. Definitely. At Tom Way, I still think there's aspects of his game that I've got to improve as well. You know, I don't think he's anywhere near as good as Fred from my own perception. So there you go. We have got a few injuries, like I said, Rashford shoulder problem, Luke Shaw hamstring injury, Bayes out of a muscle injury, Jones is still injured. He had an operation not so long ago. Lingard's still injured. He's close to returning, but he doesn't get in the team now regularly anyway. But against West Brom after the international break, I presume Solskjaer will make some changes from the 3-1 win against Everton. So anyway guys, that's everything to update you today. Drop your comments, likes below on the channel. If you do, consider subscribe as always, and take care. God bless you all again very, very soon.